Welcome back to episode 2 of the Flask Full of Failure podcast. Hopefully, again, this won't be the last and we can actually make this work, even though Taylor's decided that he's already done with us.
You better believe it.
Yep, so there you go. Alright, welcome to the second and last of the podcasts.
It's okay, I can be replaced.
we're already planning on it.
We have reserves of me.
We cloned you. Little did you know, we took your hair and we made a lot of you, little tubes. It's great.
Oh no, I knew. I headed the project. I didn't want to deal with you, so I've made other me's to deal with you.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Uh, Today we're going to be talking about just in general the pros and cons of AAA titles, and we may combine that with indie games. Maybe. Who knows? We don't really have a script. We don't know what we're doing.
You better believe we don't.
Yeah. So today I'm joined by Taylor, who you've already heard enough of, and
Yep.
and
I'll be
Scott.
taking my check on the way out.
Yo, it's your boy here back again. Now
Arr.
that actually, when I put it in the cup like this, it looks like engine coolant. But
The people, anybody who's listening to this, future or currently, has no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
no one tell them what I'm talking about.
I'm not going to.
It also tastes what I imagine like tastes engine coolant is. Yeah, so I might be dying.
Awesome, great. Well, at
Can
least
you-
we have that. It's like a snuff film over here. So welcome to the podcast where we sometimes talk about things that are important and, not just random bullshit.
And our poll of the week: Ingalls, Publix, or Harris Teeter?
Well,
Just text HT or I. The T is Publix, by the way. So don't
Why?
get confused. But
well, for
text
most
it to 55532, and carrier charges may apply. Winner will have the honor of going and shopping at one of those places by themselves without our involvement. So look forward to it.
on another note, that the one of those is actually just local to specifically us. It's not a thing that most people have. So
Oh, I forgot. Well, any of you guys in the Shelby area and behind that, and then in the radius of whatever.
So, anyways, now that we've got that out of the way, what we're actually here to talk about, AAA titles. So, we're going to start with, I think, probably the most obvious of AAA titles.
Which is also a fish.
It's gonna be
Bubsy 3D.
fuck.
Yeah.
Wait, is that? It's not an actual
honestly,
AAA title, right?
Yeah. So just to kick that discussion right off the bat, I honestly was a little pissed when they localized it from Bub Z 3D.
I
I think that took away from the original content quite a bit.
yeah.
We're all
Anyways.
idiots here. Yeah. So we're gonna start with COD, or Call of Duty, the well-known franchise for getting 13-year-olds to scream obscenities at you and racist comments. And having started that out with probably the most negative light I could have put it in,
Indeed.
I guess we could start off talking about, I guess, each one of our minimal or very large understanding, or I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Help. Experience with the game.
Our
Experience.
history with the series.
So I guess I'll go with Taylor. What experience do you have with this game?
Well, I played Call of Duty for a while, I suppose. I don't know. I was never super big into it like some people were. I started playing with Modern Warfare, then Modern Warfare 2, and World at War, and Black Ops, and then I kind of stopped playing at Black Ops just because that was the last one that I felt was unique, I guess, question mark. I don't know, I really like Black Ops and just kind of the weird sort of spy aesthetic of it.
The numbers, Mason.
What do they mean?
All right, well, Scott, what is your experience with any of the Call of Duty series?
Well, if you remember from the last podcast, part of my personal history with video games, I don't think I actually mentioned this part, but our good friend, the R Man, he got me into Call of Duty by I played the zombies from World at War with him. And then actually, this is like a very me thing to happen. I played the zombie mode. I played the zombie mode with him, and then I was like, oh, I want to get this at home. Uh, and I got it for the Wii.
Oh
And
no.
unbeknownst to me, the Wii did not have the zombie mode.
Also, it was the Wii version, so like you got
Also, it
2
was the
strikes
Wii
against
version.
you right now.
So, I mean, I finished the campaign. So I finished the World at War campaign on the Wii.
God.
I don't remember ever playing the multiplayer on it though, because I don't even think it existed.
Yeah,
But
because then
yeah,
there would
so
have been children screaming on a Nintendo console obscenities, and Nintendo was like, "We can't have that."
Indeed.
so yeah, I mean, me and I started there, and then I think me and Alex started playing Modern Warfare 2 at like that place. You ever been to one of these places? Like, or well, I mean, I'm sure you have now, but back in the day, it was like usually they're combined with card shops now, but it was like a place specifically where you go to like pay for like 30 minutes, and they just had like a bunch of Xboxes and stuff in there, and you like sit down and
There are
play them.
there are actually 2 places around here now that are like that. Well, no, there's only one now. There used to be 2.
But me and Alex used to go there a lot and play Modern Warfare 2 because neither of us had Xboxes. When we got them, then we started playing like that. And I also did Lops, and then I actually went a step further. And I think the last one that I ever played was Modern Warfare 3. So
I cannot remember which one it is that I have for PC.
it's probably Black Ops.
Yeah, it's Black Ops, and I remember I got it specifically because Garrett and Zach wanted to play zombies, and I don't know. I find the game fun. I still find the being screamed at by 13-year-olds is not a whole lot of fun. Whereas, like, as much as that's kind of like a meme at this point, it still exists. So it's kind of like that statement, like whatever stereotypes are based off truth, which is probably not something I should say out loud, but whatever.
Stereotypes are exaggerations based in common behaviors and stuff.
Yeah,
I
which
guess it's a good way to put it.
it's kind of the idea behind, I guess, a lot of the Call of Duty is that it's like, I would say in general, games aren't bad. The games are definitely like something. I guess this moves into the topic of talking about the pros of the game. Is that like,
Sure.
it got a bad rap because it's a place where, you know, your 13-year-old who you gave a controller to, who may have some issues in his life, can take out his aggressions on without much control, I guess. Whereas, like, in a lot of other situations, you can kind of monitor somebody on there. Here, not so much. And that's kind of where that whole thing came from, I feel. But on a plus side of it, I do think they are actually good games. Like, they obviously, companies who owns Call of Duty, I forgot.
Activision
Or Treyarch.
Activision
yeah.
can just pump a fuck ton of money into them, and that leads to I was reading something or listening to something, somebody's talking about it, and it's like basically companies will give games a bunch of money where they'll build a certain system, or like they'll have basically a classic build, and then they can just kind of remap that 3 or 4 games down the road and kind of just change a little bit about it. I'm trying to think of what the word is. I can't. I'm struggling with words again tonight.
Engine.
Yeah, engine. They build an engine, and then they use that same engine for 3 or 4 games because they have it and they've already dumped all the money into it. And I mean, I think that's a huge plus for them because you get to build a really good engine off of those things. So,
As a professional game developer, I must say that developing engines is quite hard. So I don't blame them for using it over and over again.
and I would say it's not just that. Like, it's hard too from the like financial standpoint. Like, if you don't have the money and the funds to just keep like building and trying to build, then you're just like, why the fuck should I do this kind of thing? But because again, Activision makes a ton of money off of these games, they can pump all of that money into programmers and just be like, build the best shit ever. And so you get, really good engines, which then can be used over and over again, which I think has a good plus to it. Also is a con at the same time, because at this point you're making the same thing over and over again.
Right. Which it's like, and it's an interesting thing that is, because like, and it's kind of it's weird in calling it a con where it's like, oh, the last Call of Duty is the same as this Call of Duty. It's like, well, what would the alternative be? It comes out less often but is radically different, or because it's like, if it's like the same game just with like a couple different changes, then just don't buy that one and wait another year, and then the next one will probably be more different than the one two previous to it, if they follow that model.
I'm kind of glad that it's not like that. I haven't heard anything along the lines of like Michael Bay's way of handling review coverage, which is basically the fuck your review coverage, I'm already working on it, why should I give a shit, you're gonna watch it anyways kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've ever actually heard or like seen whatever, read that apparently,
it sounds like the way it would be.
Yeah, apparently he's a lot like that. But yeah, it's like, at least I haven't seen anything that's just like, where Call of Duty is like, haha, well, we've already made money off of you, so why the fuck should we care, kind of thing. I mean, they do still seem to put some attempts into it. Like, they seem to make it kind of, I will also give Call of Duty another like plus for the fact that it was one of the, outside of like Halo for the game, the Xbox crowd, it was one of the first games that I think really gave people the ability to do an online experience like that.
Yeah.
Where you could get online with your friends and be like, hell yeah. You'd be like, hell yeah, this is an awesome thing. We can get together, play these games together, even if we're miles apart. We don't necessarily have that kind of system going for us, per se. I guess kind of Overwatch does that for us in a way now.
Mm-hmm.
But we've also been playing games for so long that we found a bunch of stuff. Taylor, do you have any insight on Call of Duty specifically? Anything you would have to say, either good or bad?
Not particularly. Like, I played them and I enjoyed them, but I don't know, I just never really got into the big cultural touchstone that it has become.
Definitely, like I said, I definitely think that it's gotten some negative rep, and especially because, that 13-year-old's on microphone screaming at you is definitely a meme that's very, very well associated with that. But I don't know. And then, of course, like, I think a lot of people have also kind of taken it as a knockoff or whatever. But I think along with other AAA titles, I guess we can move on to is the Assassin's Creed series. I think would be another one that I think a lot of people are really hit or miss on, I'd say. I don't know if anybody else right now has actually played the Assassin's Creed series or know much about it.
You may be surprised to know that I have.
How much of it?
Not a lot.
Okay.
So what happened with me in Assassin's Creed is I got the first one on the recommendation from my Danish exchange student back in high school.
I remember this.
Yeah, it seems like ancient history. And I was never initially into it because I wasn't super interested in the setting. And then when I started playing it, I realized that it was like you were going back in time and like reliving your ancestors' stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I'm interested. So I got interested, and then I was having fun with it, and it wasn't like amazing, but I was compelled enough to keep going. And then I got stuck in Jerusalem and quit.
I feel like that was kind of my experience with Assassin's Creed. Now having talked to Zach about it so much, because Zach is actually a huge fan of the series. Having talked to Zach about it so much, I have learned that it is actually a lot cooler of a series than I thought it was. Also, probably the strangest thing happening specifically involving Assassin's Creed, which is a big thing that a lot of people who are fans of the series have talked about, is Assassin's Creed historic accuracy. That like it's not, obviously it's not 100% historically accurate, but like they do their research for sure. I was in class the other day. We were talking about the French Revolution, and one of the professors that was giving a lecture was like, "By the way, I'm actually having my class at least watch through the cutscenes of Assassin's Creed Unity. I think it was Unity, but I'm actually having them watch through this, like." And they were like, "I want you to watch it because they're actually very historically accurate cutscenes." And I was like, "Well, what the fuck? Like, what? Like, did a professor really just tell me to like play a game as a means of history?" I don't know. It's strange because it's like you wouldn't expect that.
It's the future. Assassin's Creed is I think it's really interesting, but it's also like, or I like it because it is one of those series that you don't have to, that you can get into in any way you want, I think, because they're all not super connected, right?
They are actually. It's interconnected basically through like at least 1, 2, and 3 is like there's a story because the whole thing is you're inside the Animus, I believe is what it's called. You're inside the Animus, but outside the Animus, there's a continuous story happening. Like the stuff inside the Animus isn't like connected. Well, actually, kind of is too, because it's still going through the full Assassin's Guild.
Right.
But
well, yeah, but it doesn't like directly connect, like following a single storyline. It's just a bunch of vaguely connected historical scenarios in which assassins and Templars exist.
and then there's some weird shit with alien people. That series gets weird after a while.
Yeah, don't let the aliens get involved. Just let it be magic.
So I mean, like, I would say the Assassin's Creed series is one of the ones that, I mean, like, it does get that feeling, because it's like I feel like that's the biggest problem with AAA titles, is that it's kind of like the same thing with like movies. How it's like the movie could have a chance to be incredibly good, but like the game, like the producers or whatever are just trying to pump out this consistency and just be like, we want this to come out every year kind of thing. And at some point you just lose some of the magic behind it at that point. So I don't know, it's just, I'd say the Assassin's Creed series though holds up pretty well amongst people who've seen it. Now I feel like it does get that, like, I don't know, when you hear Assassin's Creed, you're kind of like, so
Maybe not so much as good old COD, but it is definitely become that, at least. I remember a time though that when like that was like one of those game series that was like, oh, if you gotta play it, man.
Oh yeah, I only played the first couple, and I really enjoyed them, but it went off the rails, and there was one like every year, and I'm like, I don't want $60 of my gaming budget every year to be devoted to this one series.
Although we can talk about the fact that Black Flag is like one of my favorites because you get to be a fucking pirate, and I love it.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying
Oh,
that
yeah.
it's oversaturated.
Yeah, and that was kind of the thing, is like when I remember, like, I guess this would be a really good one to talk about in the case of like definitely like since Scott was talking about mentioning like games that you're kind of like, oh god, this one again kind of thing, is that I was that way about this game for a while, until Zach made me, like, not made me, but like Zach kind of sat there and we like went through a lot of the game and what like the big reveals and stuff from it. And after I started to see more and more of it, I'm like, okay, this game's actually pretty cool. Like,
Are you still talking about Assassin's Creed?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. because like as I learned more and more about the series and how they all interconnected, it started to get to some ridiculous, like I said, alien shit or something like that. Like it wasn't necessarily aliens, but it still had that like that vibe to it. And so like as I learned more about it, I'm like, this is actually kind of like a really cool series. Of course, the cons being the fact that because they're released every year, you get bugs like Unity, where people were like facing through the floor and eyeballs were floating in front of people, and that was a shit show.
Indeed.
That was a bad time. And there's still the scene with like since it takes place in it's not a spoiler since it's a historical event, yes. Unless you just like consider historical events spoilers.
I haven't gotten that far in my fucking history textbook.
Lincoln dies.
Spoilers, Trump became president. Surprise.
Oh no. No, don't touch that one. No, fucking end. Turn it off.
We won't go any further. Yeah. Point is, so there's the you basically get to watch. Is it King Louis? Who was decapitated? I can't fucking remember. I'm in this class. I literally talked about this like 2 weeks ago, and I can't remember.
You got any?
Point is, it was
coming up.
No, it's not important. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
But it was the guillotine, and it is well known to just like destroy the frame rate in that, even for people who play it on PC who have like a really high end graphics card, it still destroys the frame rate.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's kind of one of those things, and it ends up being a problem of because we're so worried about getting the games pumped out so quickly. That you don't polish it off all the time, but you have the money to polish it off, but you don't, kind of thing.
Also, it was in fact Louis the 16th.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I knew it was Louis, I just didn't know which one. See the fabulous one, the one who like wore
16 of them.
High heels all the time to make himself look taller.
Yep,
he's my favorite.
He's a very fancy boy.
Good. Does anybody else have anything to say about the Assassin's Creed series? I feel like I just kind of like swung in there and like took over.
I feel like there was something.
Yeah,
I know that like everyone loves Ezio.
Yeah, there's a big thing on like which one's good because it's Altair, Ezio, and then who was the Connors?
Rockwell Connors.
Not Rockwell. Don't reference things that only we know about. Anyways, don't worry about it.
Okay, it's fine.
I think Connor was the one for the America one,
which I think was Assassin's Creed. I think I own that game. I own that game?
I don't know.
I own too many games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do, because it was I think whatever company publishes that one, which I've already forgot. I think it's Ubisoft, maybe. But
Wait, what?
But yeah, it was like free on whatever you play or whatever thing it comes on. This is free, so I got it because of that. So I own that game because Ubisoft was nice for once.
Nice.
I guess since again we're talking about AAA, we could just go to like the big companies and why people fucking hate them. We could talk about the wonder that was For Honor.
Oh god.
That game was a AAA title.
Indeed.
And it was garbage.
Oh, it's not it has some balancing issues, and they don't want to fix them.
That's the main problem. Is I feel like, yeah, I think that falls into like the idea of like what kind of the plus and minuses are of AAA things. Is it's like when you're a AAA title, you don't give a shit about your like follower, like people following it as much as you do if it's like an indie game. I think.
Well, yeah, because if they're at that level, assuming it's not an absurd failure, then people are going to buy it. People are going to buy the next Call of Duty game. People are going to buy the next big Ubisoft game.
Yeah.
So
and that's a problem.
Critique means very little at that when you're at that level of big.
Though, so it does go directly back to the quote by Michael Bay.
Oh God. It wasn't even a quote, was it?
Not a quote. Just like the thing Michael Bay said is basically like, why should I worry about your fucking reviews because you're just gonna watch the next one anyways? It's like, God damn it, you're kind of right. Although I haven't watched a Michael Bay film since Transformers 1, I think. So
I watched the second one.
Me too.
I don't know why.
You're both dead to me.
No.
But yeah, I mean it's like the companies, they have the money to like do these things, and they make the games. I think is the big thing. Is they make the games and it just comes out, happens, and people are like, oh shit, that big company Ubisoft made another game. You know, it might not be shit this time, even though the past 6 games have been, and you buy it and you're like, fuck, this is still shit, but you're buying it because it's got that name on it.
Oh yeah.
Ubisoft.
Also, at this stage, I feel like every multiplayer Ubisoft game is gonna carry with it the addendum. It might be like Siege though, since they really turned that one around. But For Honor, I'm not sure we'll get to that point. I've heard that they are moving to like proper, like dedicated servers rather than the peer-to-peer network, which literally everyone was like, don't do this. Don't do the P2P stuff. It sucks for multiplayer if it's not always one-on-one. And they're like, nah, don't worry about it. And then it sucked for everything that isn't one-on-one.
Oh, I would also like to chime in a little bit on that. It's a tiny tangent, but that's actually how the Switch does its multiplayer.
What? Peer-to-peer?
P2P, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why which is part of the reason why I can't play Splatoon from my apartment.
Interesting.
And like, because people have they've taken like Wireshark to it, which Wireshark is it's a program that just basically analyzes network connections and everything about them, and they have uncovered that pretty much every Switch title that has multiplayer that exists currently, like Mario Kart and Splatoon, there's no true host. It's everyone is the host, and so it just like Nintendo's found a way to make it work, but except in my apartment. But like Taylor is saying, it's not a fantastic model.
It is less than ideal, especially in a game like For Honor, where it is 90%, not even 90%, it's 90% timing, and it's really frustrating when it just completely fucks you, but by weird internet connections, or the problem a lot of people had where people would leave and the game would just lock up, where no one could really play anymore in that server until it randomly decided, oh, this server isn't going to work, you're all dismissed.
I very rarely regret game purchases. That is one that I regret.
Yeah, I kind of want that $60 back. But that's fine.
Get it back, and it's fine. Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely one of the ones that, like, it got super hyped up, and everybody was talking about it, and it was like one of those ones that, like, and see, this is the problem. It's like, this is a weird comparison, but like I feel like AAA developers are like an abusive relationship, in the fact that you're like, they may have changed though, and you go back and it still just beats the shit out of you, kind of thing. Is that's how I feel about it, because like I think it's Ubisoft has a new a new Pirates game coming out, and I'm excited as fuck about it. And I shouldn't be. I know I shouldn't be. I know it's probably gonna be garbage, but like,
is that the Sea of Thieves one or whatever?
Oh, it's like Cross and Bone or some shit like that.
Oh,
what the hell is it called? Skull and Bone? It's basically like you have a team of you and 4 other people are fighting against 5 other people who are all like piloting boats, and I want it so bad because I want it to be good, But like,
Yeah.
I feel like me and Zach are on the same page with this one. Like both of us, like I want it because I want it to be good because it sounds like an awesome concept. But it's a AAA title by Ubisoft, and you're just like, it's gonna be shit. Like they're gonna try and they're gonna make it sound really cool, and they're gonna do something stupid to fuck it up.
Well, it's gonna have a massive amount of potential, and then they're gonna fuck it up.
We could go with the whole the whole big topical thing right now of loot boxes.
Um,
We won't get
I
into.
don't know.
Boot boxes.
Well, I guess since we've talked a lot about AAA, we can go to some pros and cons about indie titles.
Okay.
So, I guess starting with the idea of indie, we could go with like when I think. Do you want to go with just when you think we think indie games kind of hit a big point in the market, or because I think the kind of lead in was like Super Meat Boy was a big lead into indie games becoming a big deal.
Really?
Yeah, I think that was about the time when it. Because first off, let me remind you that Super Meat Boy is 10 years old now, which I was like, holy shit, what? I'm gonna just make sure on that, but I'm pretty sure Super Meat Boy is at least. Fuck, did you?
Sure would be
Okay,
a shame
8
if
years.
Logan
It's
was
8
caught.
years. 8 years old.
Yeah, sure would be a shame if Logan was caught lying live on stream.
It's fine. I've done.
Then you've also got the good old Binning of Isek that came after that.
Yeah, the Binding of Isaac. Whatever. I don't. Edmund was definitely like a big contributor to that whole thing. Also, fun fact. The programmer for Super Meat Boy literally lives like less than a mile, or lived less than a mile away from me at one point, which was weird. Because if you watch, I guess I'm just showing everybody where I live, but yeah, if you watch Indie Game the movie, they like, I remember they showed where he lived, and I was like, holy shit, that's like right down the street from me. Because it
I'm
actually.
gonna go stab Logan.
Yep. I deserve it probably.
He does.
Yeah, I do.
He makes us work and he doesn't pay us.
I don't get paid either, so we're all doing it for free.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. I'm not getting any money out of this, so I mean, unless somebody wants to go touch my tip jar down there, I'm kidding. Don't feel obligated.
I am not
your penis.
I am not touching your tip jar, sir.
Yeah. So, anyways, I feel like that was a tangent happened there. My brain didn't catch back up, but I feel like Super Meat Boy was kind of like the thing that ushered it in. Maybe it wasn't the first necessarily, but I feel like it's what ushered in the big drive into things. Actually, I just remembered another AAA title that we could talk about. I don't know if it's AAA. It was definitely.
Oh boy.
It wasn't AAA. Just a big title that had like a lot of promise. We'll get back to it later. My bad. So yeah, that ushered in the indie game, and then I feel like also ushering in the indie game thing brought in crowdfunding as well, which is a whole nother thing to complain about. So, has anybody other than me played Super Meat?
I think I've played it, but I don't own it.
Yeah, I've played it at your house.
Oh, maybe I have to.
I own it on like 3 different consoles. I like it a lot. I actually think it's a super fun game. What it did a very good job about, and I think one of the reasons why it was so well loved, was because it was very much like the old style of like old platformers, like SNES, NES kind of platformers. Was that like it was very much one of those kind of styles of games where it was like, you know, here you have this, and as you go on, it gets progressively more difficult until by the last level you're just screaming in rage a lot. But not only has that brought along the, since again, pros and cons, the since not only it's brought in the like ushering in the crowdfunding ideas, which man, we've heard horror stories about that for sure. Anybody actually crowdfunded anything that turned out to be a total flop? I'm actually curious. Specifically games, I meant. Sorry.
Oh, no. I've crowdfunded a lot, but never games. Well, wait, that's not true. I've crowdfunded visual novels.
Didn't you have a problem with one of them? Did we talk about that last podcast too?
I'm sure. Well,
there was one that like it came out and you said it was good.
Oh,
but, like, you were promised.
Yeah. Well, no, like the Vita. So I backed it, and I backed it, and then like chose to get the Vita version, and then the non-Vita version came out like a year and a half ago. The Vita version has yet to exist, so still waiting. But no, I've crowdfunded a lot, and then they just like. Well, here's the issue with the ones I've crowdfunded is that like they're pretty much all just they're not like games that don't exist and I'm making them exist. They already exist and I'm just crowdfunding the translations. So maybe that's not the same thing, really.
I feel like that would be a little bit different, yeah.
But yeah, so no, I didn't like. I wasn't part of the Mighty Number 9 or whatever.
Which okay, I didn't throw in my crowdfunding on that one, but I did buy it. I don't hate the game. I actually think it's kind of fun. It's got its issues. Don't get me wrong. Like it's still not great. Actually, I feel like that's about 50% of indie games is what I just said there. I'm trying to think. So, like, you definitely have played an indie game, a big indie game, Scott.
Sure.
Being one of your favorite games ever, I think. The Binding of Isaac.
Oh yeah, I love the Binding of Isaac. I didn't play. So I played the vanilla. I didn't like play the vanilla when it was big. I played it many years later. And then obviously Rebirth and Afterbirth and all that came out, and I have like probably upwards of 500 hours in it. But
yeah.
It's a fun, and I've also played on the Vita and other stuff. And I, not including the recent booster packs because I haven't played it in a while, but I used to have like maybe like 80% encyclopedic knowledge of all the items.
Yeah.
It's a good way to study for a test, just mod it in as a Binding of Isaac item.
Taylor, do you have any big indie games that you like enjoyed? Like your pictures.
Oh yeah, Darkest Dungeon is my favorite.
Is that a crowdfunding game?
I'm going to look it up, but I believe so.
Made its way onto the Switch. I own it on the Switch now, which means I kill myself here.
It was on Kickstarter. Yes, but Darkest Dungeon is definitely one of my favorites. Just a fun little game that really shows that you don't need the big graphics or the big shooty bang bangs. You just need a lot of style and a lot of suffering.
The big shooty bang bangs.
Well, I was actually going to ask you, like, what are some of your favorite things about the indie games that you like? What are some of the big things that, like, you feel like because it's an indie game, you get that from the fact that it's indie rather than the fact that it's, like, made by a big company?
I mean, it's mostly just the fact that you can definitely... I mean, I feel like I'm not really breaking new ground here, but the creativity and the level of uniqueness that each one can have, because it doesn't have to appeal to, the lowest common denominator or, a wide audience. So it can be really niche little titles. Like some of my other favorites are like the Hotline Miami games, which are definitely not for everyone, but they're very, very frantic sort of beat 'em up where you zip around beating up Russian mobsters and stuff like that. Or another game that I Well, I haven't played recently, but it's another game that I picked up and need to finish. Deadbolt, which is a game kind of similar to Hotline Miami, where you play as a Grim Reaper who is a hitman taking out other undead in a city. It's like Hotline Miami, where you have to like go through various areas trying not to die because you die on one hit, and you have to clear out big areas and stuff like that. You have stuff like Rogue Legacy, which is a ton of fun. I don't know. I'm just rambling at this point about games I like, but you know.
Rogue Legacy, fun.
Mm-hmm.
Scott, what are things that you like about like your favorite indie games?
Yes. Wait, what were some of my other than Isaac? I'm trying to think. Is Braid an indie game?
Force.
Braid is a 100% indie game.
Bro Force.
Yes.
Bro Force is awesome.
I'm literally just looking at things that I have installed on my desktop.
Yeah, I mean, I really, really liked Braid. So here's hold on. Here's an interesting thing. What category, like, so indie games, what exactly is like the like definition? Does it just mean that it's not made by a big company?
Basically not made. Owned by an independent publisher or whatever.
Yeah, so one of my favorite indie games, which I feel like you could make this a whole category on its own, being games we've played that you're pretty sure no one else has ever heard of or played. Actually, this one I'm not sure because Markiplier played it, so it might be.
And then it's got its little like YouTuber sphere kind of thing going on.
Right. But Ebe is a good example of an indie game that I think really.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like Taylor said. It doesn't need to have the shooty bang bangs to be cool. Like Ebe has this like really weird, like not super advanced art style and stuff that adds to its atmosphere.
Talk about your favorite game that I fucking.
Valhalla? No. Corpse Party.
Yes.
That's like a super indie game in that it originally started as a like a game jam winner.
You mentioned Braid. One of the things I wanted to say about Braid is, holy fuck, that game was made. I'm pretty sure that game was made by one person. Like
yeah.
I can't even begin to comprehend that. Like it's
like
too
Undertale.
Much. Yeah, that's crazy. That shit's crazy to me.
Oh, here's another thing. I really like when they play around with certain mechanics. And this is a game that I have not played very much of, but I really want to one day. It's called A Blind Legend. You ever seen that one?
I have not.
I guess I should say heard of it because it's like a medieval adventure game, but there's no visuals whatsoever. It's like there's not even menus or anything. It's just a black screen and everything is done by audio. And the idea is you play as a knight who is blind, and so you have to rely on like your daughter or whatever to help you get around. And it seems really dope, and it's also cool just because blind people can play it.
Yeah.
But stuff like that I think is pretty good. I was like, for a second, I thought I was going crazy trying to find Braid in here, and then there's another category of games which I don't even know what you would call this, but it's like, and this might be wrong, but they're like AAA games that seem like indie games.
Could you give us an example? I can't think of it.
I have the perfect example, although this might not be. I might be getting like publisher and developer mixed up, but if you heard of Dust?
Yes.
Dust. It's what was the subtitle? It's like Dust. It's a pun. Oh yeah, it's like
Oh yeah. The furry
the Elysian tale. Yeah, the furry game. So if I remember right, it was made by Microsoft or something. Maybe I'm getting this wrong.
It's I own this game. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
it's Dust and Elysian Tale, and it was developed by Humble Hearts, which does not have its own page on Wikipedia, but is published by Microsoft Studios.
Okay, so maybe it wasn't made by Microsoft, just published by them, but still.
Technically, that would disqualify it from being an indie game by the strict definition of indie, but
right.
No one really pays attention to that definition.
I feel like, what was the deal with Ori and the Blind Forest? Was that?
God, is that a fucking like beautiful game? Like outside of just like I don't know, like I haven't beaten it, but it's gorgeous. It's so
yeah.
Also
So Ori and the Blind Forest is actually the exact same scenario because it's also published by Microsoft Studios. So.
Oh yeah, and I suppose a lot of that could come down to the trouble of creating video games again, where it's very difficult to get anywhere without some sort of major publisher backing your game.
Yeah,
because they require a lot of money.
Yeah. That's kind of the thing is like I'm thinking, the way I'm thinking of it is like comparing it's kind of comparing games to movies in a way of it's like, you're obviously going to have your big time thrillers, but occasionally there's that like one indie movie that sneaks its way in and you're like, holy shit, that was amazing, and then it gets like critically acclaimed and all that shit. It's the same way with games too, because I feel like there are a lot of games that started out as a like we're going to we have a ton of money, so we're going to make our normal Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed. I feel like there's other games I can't think of right now. But then you have the stuff of that one indie game comes in, people are just like, this was fucking amazing kind of thing. I guess also going with it like a AAA towards indie thing is that one of the reasons that I think the Nintendo Switch is doing as well as it is because Nintendo decided that they will allow third-party things into there. So we're getting other games that aren't just... I mean, they're still AAA, I guess. But going on to another topic, but we're still I'm going to continue with it anyways. You have the fact that, like, now they're putting Payday 2 and Dark Souls and a bunch of other games that aren't just Nintendo published games or the shitty indie games that they put on there sometimes. Nintendo does put good indie games on there occasionally, but like a lot of times they just have those like shitty indie games that people are just like, what the fuck is that game? What is that? Why? You know what I mean?
Yeah, or like, you mean like the types of things that they just get, you wonder like how they got out of Greenlight Hell?
Yeah. That's always
a good example.
I guess that right there, that what you just said is one of the I think the biggest problems with indie games. Is that the market is like the market for indie games is horribly oversaturated with Greenlight Hell games, and then you have stuff like Steam where Steam just allows whatever garbage they want on there.
Mm-hmm.
Was this a good game? Did people like it? Who the fuck knows? Did Steam let it on there? Yes. Why? Who knows? Was it a finished game? Probably not. I think that's a big problem with indie games, and what's kind of a thing that I think in a way drags indie games down too.
I think sometimes these categories we put them into can hurt the reputation of the games. Like sometimes being a AAA game may inflate people's opinions of what it's going to be like, or degrade their opinion of it because they're like, man, this game is great, but it's still a AAA, thing or something like that. Or an indie game the same way. It's like they might think anything's great as long as it's made by an independent company, etc.
Play games because you like them.
Yeah.
Don't
fucks.
Yeah, you fucks.
Play Fragile Dreams for the Wii.
God, I need you to not.
Please do not campaign on this podcast.
It's a masterpiece that if you liked Resident Evil, I'm not sure which game it is that it's similar to, but if you wanted Resident Evil with anime boys, then
stop.
That is your well, I don't know if it's
Stop.
okay. What's the game where like your inventory, so like if you pick up an item, the item has kind of like it'll have like a Tetris block thing around it, and your inventory is like a grid, and essentially you can carry whatever items you can fit into that grid with their weird shapes.
A lot of games do that. Well, a lot of games do that. Resident Evil 4 was kind of the big Resident Evil game you're thinking of.
Okay, so yes, if you want that, but it's like post-apocalyptic anime boy running around with a stick, and there's like no music ever, so it creates an interesting atmosphere. It's like Half-Life 2, just go play it. It's awesome.
See, when you said anime boys, like I thought you meant like anime like pretty boys, like older ones. But now that you mentioned running around with a stick, I think you might be talking about actual children.
I mean, I don't know how old he was. I think he's supposed to be like maybe 15, but
whatever. It's not important.
It's not important. Well, no, it is important. The game is of the utmost importance. Actually, I should have said golf club because he's holding a golf club on the cover.
Golf club is just a metal stick.
The golf club is like the second best weapon in the game, or the second best like sword weapon.
Technically, most things 1 and 2, we get down to like the core of things and be like, you're running around with a bat. It's just a big metal stick.
Yeah.
I mean,
the cell phone is just a very small stick that allows me to call people.
God. Oh my God.
It's also one of the few times that I preferred the English version.
That is a rarity for you, for sure.
Scott, who are you anymore?
Because they got so many good like you just gotta play. Well, not that, like one of the mechanics in it. Here we go. One of the mechanics in it is you like find objects that because like something happened to the world and like almost all the humans are dead, and you like find the objects that they left behind when they died or whatever. So like some guy might have like died while he was drinking his coffee, and you find his mug and you take it to a campfire. You can like hear his like memories from the mug, and
that's
like
horrifying.
Every object has a different voice actor, and so it really like gives you the sense that you're listening to like the memories from a bunch of completely different people, and it's like a really nice touch.
We just talk about the fact that that if like I had died in that situation, that you would probably find a coffee mug, either that or like a beer can. It's like it's gonna be like a beer bottle or a coffee mug, and that's what you're finding, and that's gonna have my memories. And they're probably gonna be terrible memories, and you're not gonna want to hear them.
Absolutely. It also, yeah, it's just great. The combat kind of sucks, but in this economy,
what can you do?
Yeah. So I mean, but I think that's again just another thing. If it's there are games out there all the time. I feel like people don't talk nearly as like as they don't gush as much about AAA titles as often as you do indie game. To be fair, I've been gushing about I think it's a AAA. Sure it is. Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I love the fuck out of this game. But it's like it's definitely like it's a licensed Nintendo game. It is a big name Nintendo game. I love the shit out of it because it's really good.
So here's a question: like, how big does a company have to be considered a AAA company?
I have no idea.
Because I was like thinking, depending on the definition, like even something like fucking Danganronpa might be AAA.
Yay.
Because it's Spike Chunsoft who makes a bunch of other stuff too, or produces or whatever.
Trying to look at the AAA definition.
There's not there does not appear to be a specific definition.
Basically, what I'm getting is an informal classification used for video games produced and distributed by a mid-sized or major publisher. So basically, anything that's made by a decent large company is what it sounds like.
Well,
so that's a lot of shit.
I think Persona 5 probably counts as a AAA title.
I want to play that game so damn bad. I have to finish Danganronpa first. It's like a requirement.
Yeah, it is. But
it has gotten like crazy good reviews though. Like I feel like the Persona games were always kind of like a hit or miss thing. I feel like a lot of people heard like Danganronpa or not Danganronpa, sorry, Persona, and were like, eh.
I think they were always considered good games, but like whether people would enjoy them or not was always hit or miss. And Persona 5 is like pretty much anyone can enjoy it. And also the Persona was kind of a Wild West before 3. So
well, it's like I would think I was listening to somebody else's podcast about somebody was explaining Persona in that, and like if you were to come up to me and be like, in this game you do this, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't want to play this game. Like just
the social links.
Well, I mean, first off, if you were to be like your whole like you are going to go through a high school and you are going to talk to people and that determines your stats in battle, I'd be like, the fuck do you mean? Like, why would I want to do that? Although to be fair, I'm a little bit like weird because if you were to be like, it's a game where you sit around farming, I'm like, give it to me. Stardew Valley came out and I'm like, I want to be all over that shit.
You know what you might like, Logan?
Oh no.
Hold on, I'm trying to remember. I can never pronounce this word. Atelier. It's like a French word.
I have no idea.
Whatever. This is the word. It means it's like a French word for workshop, I think, or something. Private workshop or studio of a professional artist. They're a bunch of like, I guess they're JRPGs, not really. Well, maybe they are. I don't know. But they're basically alchemy games. So just imagine your farming games, but instead of farming, it's alchemy.
Right.
And so like instead of like farming, you just make potions all day.
Speaking of indie games that did really well, Stardew Valley. There you go. Which Stardew Valley was described as what would be a AAA title of oh shit, what's the name of the game?
Harvest Moon.
Harvest Moon, yeah. So like Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley have a lot of things in common. Yeah. Those are great games. Well, then I think like with the AAA versus the indie games, I feel like you get into this weird ground of like who's copying who at a certain point, because I feel like some people get mad because indie games, it's like, well, this game is just blank, but you know, not exactly. Which I think that's kind of a problem too.
Hmm.
Anything else they wanted to add to this topic in general?
Taylor was a very sleepy boy.
Sounds like we're.
I have AAA insurance.
God damn it!
There it is. There's the joke.
There's the joke, and that's basically this is where we're gonna start bringing the podcast to a close, because that was shit.
Yeah. In conclusion, play Fragile Dreams, play Ebe.
You know what the funny thing was? I was legitimately about to say, are there any games that you would suggest to the people that's like an indie game that you think does not get as much credit as it should? Just like as a quick plug a game real fast.
VA11 Hall A. It's a good one.
Valhalla, in other words.
Yeah, but if you just search Valhalla, you might not find it. Just search Cyberpunk Bartending Waifu Simulator, and then you'll find it.
Damn it. Scott's not allowed to talk next podcast.
Yeah, it's fine. And then I won't be here, so it'll just be you talking. Look forward to that, everyone.
Yay!
More
Who
of
wants
this.
to listen to me talk for an hour and a half?
I don't.
Me
I
neither.
just did. Anyways. Also, I guess I'll plug Deadbolt. Go play Deadbolt.
Thought you were gonna plug Darkest Dungeon.
Well, everyone knows about Darkest Dungeon. It doesn't need my help.
Go play Stardew Valley. That game's great. Also, there's a new game coming out called Ooblets, and I can't wait till it comes out because it's like a mix of like Pokemon, Animal Crossing, and Stardew Valley, and I'm like, yes, it's everything I need. Did I want to waste my time for like hours living in game days when I could be doing productive shit in real life? Yes, please give me more of that.
Also, go play Call of Duty Black Ops 8 or whatever they're at now.
Call of Duty Shoot-A-Man.
Yeah.
Wow. Jesus.
It really boiled it down.
That's a Game Grumps joke. I can't take credit for that.
Yeah,
We're not allowed to bring outside content in here. Damn it. Yeah, well, yes, that's basically going to be the close to this this podcast. Next week, or next 2 weeks, whenever the hell we do this again, we'll try to be more organized, but probably not because it's us. So, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your night.